As a newcomer to Final Fantasy XIV, you've probably heard this piece of advice before. Focus only on the main story quest and your job quest, and skip the majority of side quests, especially if they're the yellow ones. I remember being given this advice as a sprout, and I have since found to regret following that advice to a T. Although I would not say this is bad advice by any means, I do think it is a bit too simplistic. Yes, doing your MSQ and job quests are by far the most important quests that you could do in the game, and they're what you can focus on, I would say, for the majority of the game. But I think your enjoyment of the main story can be greatly hindered if you don't stop, take a breath, and do some other things besides the MSQ. Anyway, I am going to explain how you can get the most out of Final Fantasy XIV's main story. But one more thing, I'm going to try my best to not spoil anything. However, I will say the names of quests and when it is the best time to do them. This shouldn't really spoil anything for you, but I did just want to give a warning. Also, I will throw up graphics on screen that will give the location where you will find these quests, and some of them have screenshot previews, so I do consider this to be a bit spoilery, so I do recommend waiting until you get up to that part of the game before you watch that section of the video, or just listen to it audio only, I guess. But if you do want to get more information about the side quests, I will leave a link to each side quest's wiki page in the description. And with all that out of the way, let's start with the character creator, which you should be happy to know that basically anything you make in here does not matter. So go make whatever abomination you want. However, sometimes I do feel like the Warrior of Light is canonically supposed to be a human male Midlander, which is only because of the trailers and has nothing to do with the MSQ really. Essentially, just pick the race and gender you want to play as. There is literally no difference. Next, we come to the jobs, and my most basic advice here is to pick the job that seems the most interesting to you. Play what you think you are going to like, and if you later find out that you don't like the job you picked, you can always swap it for another one at a later point in the game. However, let's say for the sake of argument that you don't really care about any of the jobs in the game, and in that case I will make some suggestions based on job quests that I feel are the most relevant to the MSQ. Start out with a job that starts you in the city-state of Ul'dah, which would be Gladiator, Thaumaturge, or Pugilist. Ul'dah is a very critical city throughout almost the entirety of the story, so I recommend starting there. Then after you complete your level 10 class quest and are able to switch jobs, I would immediately switch over to either Lancer or maybe to a lesser extent Rogue, because continuing with these classes / jobs I think will give crucial context to later expansions. Now, throughout the base story of Realm Reborn, enjoy the game. I will recommend doing things like unlocking the Acetician, I don't know how the fuck you say that, the Gold Saucer, Triple Triad, and Glamour, but besides that, just continue doing your MSQ and job quests. Then eventually you beat base Realm Reborn and move on to the patch content. And fair warning, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of patch content. Take it at your own pace. The only side quest I would recommend you do at this point is Remembering the Past and Magitechnical Difficulties. Also, I will point out that you must do a Realm Reborn 24-man Alliance raid if you want to continue playing the game. But don't worry about that, the game will shove it in your face once it's available. There are many other quests that you can do at this point, but I will come back to those at a later point. But eventually, you will finally make it to Heavensward. Then once you unlock the new city-state in Heavensward, I would recommend switching your job to Dark Knight. Not just because the quests are badass, but because the Dark Knight job quest gives tons of character development to your own character, your Warrior of Light. Although it doesn't develop the main story in any considerable way, it does make the character that you are spending the majority of your time with more well-rounded. Other than that, you can just move on to beating base Heavensward and move on to the patches. This time the Alliance raid is entirely optional, but you should still do it, starting with Sky Pirates. And you should also do the normal 8-man raids this time around, starting with Disarmed. You should definitely do the Heavensward Trials series as well, with Gods of Eld. I hear that this series is very important for Dawntrail, so be sure to do this quest line. Next, I will recommend before you end the Heavensward patch content and are about to enter Stormblood, do the quest The Paths We Walk. This quest series is a great way to cap off the Heavensward expansion, in my opinion. Now moving on to base Stormblood. Continue to do the MSQ and job quests all the way to the end. Wow, that was a pretty quick explanation for Stormblood, because now it's time for Stormblood Patches. Do the Alliance raid series starting with Dramatis Persona. Also do the normal 8-man raid starting with the Hunt for Omega. Lastly, there's another trial series for Stormblood, but this one is different because you unlock it in the middle of MSQ patch 4.2. And you'll know because one character will literally pull you off to the side and be like, I have a business venture for you. Then you can go do it. Other than that, Stormblood side quests are kind of light on story relevance. In fact, I was even considering leaving the Alliance raid off the list entirely, and I think the reason for that might be because of Eureka. But anyway, now we're moving on to base Shadowbringers. Go through the MSQ like usual. However, there are actually no more job quests left for you to do at this point. In fact, they have now been replaced with role quests. I did not know this when I first played Shadowbringers, and I was very confused that there weren't any job quests to do, if I recall correctly, I think. But don't worry about where you will complete the job quests because the MSQ will point it out to you. Then once completing base Shadowbringers, you once again have an Alliance raid that you shouldn't do. Nah, seriously, do the Alliance raid if you want, but I think that this is the raid that has literally no MSQ relevance, so feel free to skip it if you want. But if you do want to experience it as a near fan or whatever other reason, it starts with the quest Word About Comra. I don't know how do you pronounce these words. The 8-man normal raid is definitely worth doing though, and that starts with In the Middle of Nowhere. The trial series is also great, starting with old enemies, new threats, and the trial series functions almost the exact same way as Stormblood's trial series did, with it unlocking through MSQ in patch 5.2. Once again, an NPC will pull you to the side and whisper sweet nothings into your ear. Now, there are two other optional things that you can do right now. First, you could do your capstone job quest, which has little MSQ relevance, but you are probably attached to your job quest NPC companions at this point, so you might as well go see them one last time. It won't take long. But one other optional side quest series that you could do is completing all of Shadowbringers role quests, which would require you to have a tank, a healer, one physical DPS, and one magical range DPS up to level 80. This is a big time commitment, which is why I'm making this entirely optional. If you do it, you will get an amazing setup for future expansions. So I'll leave it up to you if you want to or not. But moving into base Endwalker, I suggest going full steam ahead through MSQ. Yes, at some point you will be presented with role quests, but I don't find them essential enough to justify doing them during the MSQ. Once you're in patch content for Endwalker, that is when the MSQ relevant side quests really start to pop up. First, you can do the normal 8-man raid starting with the Crystal from Beyond. The Alliance raid is different this time around, unlocking in the middle of patch 6.1. Once again, a certain character will ask for your help, and it starts with a mission in Mordona. There is no trial series for Endwalker, but there are more role quests that you can do, although I would consider them to be less important than Shadowbringers role quests. You might as well do the Endwalker ones if you already did the Shadowbringers ones though. Now is also a good time to tackle the Binding Coil of Bahamut raid from Realm Reborn, starting with Primal Awakening. And the reason I'm telling you to do this raid now instead of in a Realm Reborn is because the difficulty of this raid series is Savage level. There is no normal version of these raids. But being at Endwalker level, you can clear these raids solo. Now there are some great yellow side quests that are absolutely worth doing for Endwalker as well. Shadow Pass unlock once you complete patch 6.2 Buried Memory, and then Shadow Pass once more will continue this storyline when you complete patch 6.3 God's Revel Lands Tremble. The Omega Beyond the Rift quest series is also a fantastic quest series to do, starting with A Heartless Hypothesis. Another great side quest to do is called Sandwiches and Pretzels. And one last quest series that is absolutely worth worth doing is Tataro's Grand Endeavor, starting with small business, big dreams. Alright, so that's about it. There are tons of other side quests that you can do. Eureka, for example, I bet will play at least a small part in the story of Dawn Trail. I also recommend checking out the Hildebrand quest line starting with the Rise and Fall of Gentlemen. However, it absolutely has no MSQ relevance, but is still a quest chain that you should check out at some point. And that's it. The TLDR is do the raids and a few yellow side quests. Hopefully that was simple enough to understand, but if you want to check out even more side quests that are worth doing, check out OJ Osama's videos on side quests worth doing. And I know that there are tons of other side quests that have some sort of MSQ relevance, but I wanted to distill everything down into the bare side quest essentials. Basically the side quests that I wish I played along with the MSQ, and I didn't do that with the raids at the time because I assumed they were all Savage level difficulty. I didn't know that there were normal raids the first time I played, but please feel free to post any other side quest content that you think I missed in the comments, and try to make it as spoiler free as possible. Also feel free to side quest that like button, and remember, at the end of the day, play Final Fantasy how you want to play Final Fantasy.